What are you going to bring to the table that's going to draw that crowd, especially at our price point? Our guns aren't cheap, man. They are not cheap. And you're going to get an everyday citizen to, I can buy this $600 gun, or I'm going to spend $2,000 plus. Well, to me, $2,000 plus is a cheap life insurance. If your life depends on that thing performing lights out, you know, shooting lights out. There you go.
All right, gang. Here we are. We're back here again, over the barrel, here at the Rainy Arms Firearms Academy. I'm GW, I'm COO for the company, and I'm here with Jim Erwin. He's been a friend of mine forever, and I know that's shocking, all right, that I would actually have a friend, especially one that's over a decade in length. Well, yeah. Well, that's 70 in dog years, so that's a lot, right? So Jim, he's going to tell us a little bit about his background, but he's currently working for a fantastic company named Staccato. And if you know about 2011s, and anybody that shoots a 2011 knows about this company. So Jim, tell me a little bit about who you are first.
Well,
Jim first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And this is your second time here,
man. Yeah,
so you're your second time with us, and man, we always have a good time when you're here.
So grew up in the mountains of California. Don't tell anybody. I'd say the Nevada side, but it was actually California. Small mountain town, ski area. Knew early on I wanted to go into the military, wanted to be a sniper. I was like 12, 13 years old. Mom was a hippie, Forest Service lady. My dad was a hippie, construction guy. So like guns were bad, but I didn't think so. Anyway, ended up joining the military. Got into 2nd Ranger Battalion. Did about 4 years there as a sniper most of my time. Decided to go check out Alaska. Went up to Alaska for a couple of years and decided that the regular Army wasn't quite my cup of tea. I think we're going to have a formation for this and a formation for, it was all like just accountability type stuff, and we didn't really actually do anything except for getting formation. So I decided to try out for Delta Force, and got lucky, didn't get hurt, made it out to the unit and spent a couple years out there, and then spent my last couple of years running a free fall program for 18th Airborne Corps Alerts, doing a bunch of skydiving before I decided to get out and pursue other hobbies, and ended up getting into high threat protection. So basically, over the course of the last 30 plus years, I've been carrying a gun professionally, and have my opinions on certain models, brands, and what the expectations of them are, and have earned my living carrying them. And the last 7 years or so, I started up Shooting Performance Institute. Was brought on with Staccato as a paid shooter, using their guns in my training, and just sharing my knowledge and experiences that I've had over the, like I said, the last few decades with like-minded people that are interested in learning. And what I teach is basically those fundamentals, the mechanics of fundamentals, and everything I teach is based off of first-hand experience, or people that I know 1 degree of separation that are winning national championships, or 300 gunfights under their belt and still alive. So we don't work on theory. We don't work on that type of, I saw it on the Instagram, so therefore we got to try it type of thing.
Right.
We proof out what we teach and the techniques we teach.
So you're on Team Staccato.
Yep.
And you're bringing their type of gospel to the world, which we really enjoy here. It's a popular brand for us.
Yeah.
I carry one. Did you have experience with the Staccato or 2011 brand before, STI brand before you were behind the wire?
I did. Mm-hmm. So actually in active duty, we were messing with them a little bit in those special operations units. However, I wasn't directly involved in that process. I was the fairly new guy, basically do your job and don't ask questions, just do work, which I was cool with. But shortly after I got out, I decided I wanted to get into competition. Mm-hmm. So I showed up with my drop leg holster, my custom 1911 45, and proceeded to get my ass kicked by a guy with a STI 40 cal. I'm like, what is that? And why is that not in my life, right?
Right on.
Didn't have to do a mag change, the gun wasn't moving, and I was just like blown away. So within 6 months, I had me one, and been a fan ever since. I've done some work and some programs with other companies, but I found myself, when the opportunity came about to get back with STI, now Staccato, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
Like, I truly believe they're one of the world's best shooting handguns, and
Wow.
would depend my life on it and others. I would never put my name to something that I don't believe in or that I think would hurt people. You know, meaning like if I wouldn't depend on it to protect me and you and people I love, then there's no way I'd put my name to it, and I'll do that with these guns hands down every day.
Right. And your opinion, believe it or not, has a ton of weight. I mean,
About 270.
Yeah, man. Well, I have been eating more. Good dinner last night, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It was delicious.
It was excellent. So, tell me about STI Staccato. Tell us about the how that company evolved.
That, like, from the start or the transition?
Yes, all of it from the start.
So STI really was born out of. So STI isn't what people think with the sexually transmitted infection. I was like, I thought Subaru long before I thought that, but Subaru STI. But it started as Strayer Trip Industries. Basically, a couple of gentlemen that used to shoot competition back in the day, and they got to a point they started to stagnate, if you will, in competition. Like, we were only getting so fast, and the margins between first, second, thirds were pretty small. They were trying to figure out a better mousetrap, so they came up with the idea to modernize or tweak the 1911 design and make it modular. So they took 1911, basically separated the frame from the grip, put a polymer double stack grip on it, and in doing so they were able to double the capacity of the gun. So that means one less mag change, second and a half on a fast mag change. So before you even come out of the holster, I got a second and a half on you just because I got more bullets in my gun. That's a game changer. And then secondary effect is we were getting less felt recoil. That energy transfer through the frame and into the grip assembly was actually dissipating instead of being retained through that single piece unit. And now we're having a gun that moves even less, so you stay on target longer, you get back on target faster. Speeds went up, winds went up, and they just started dominating the competition space, and then building open class guns, limited division guns. Fast forward to 2018, 2019. I'm not exactly sure when it was bought by the new ownership, but they were finding that there's only so much space in that competition industry, like that world, right? There's only you're only going to sell so many guns to the same people, and in order to progress and evolve as a company, they had to find a new way to do it. And diving into the everyday carry and duty style guns was absolutely. We have millions of private citizens that are carrying. We have tens and thousands of cops. So to go that route and take that technology and that engineering and put it toward that and start to build, basically retune it to a really dependable, highly dependable gun that will perform lights out all the time was the new goal. That was the new end zone for us. And we've done it really well. And the company has really, I'd say, prospered and been welcomed with open arms. I run into a few people here and there, they're like, man, you screwed us. I'm like, who's us? He's like, the competition industry. Like, you should have never changed the name. Like, that was our bread and butter, that was our soul. And I'm like, well, that soul was gonna die, if we tried to stay there. So it's been well received. Staccato, so we changed the name from STI to Staccato in May 2020. And I think the biggest reason was really to get away from that competition industry racing stigma of having a finicky handgun that needed to be tuned and babied, and you got to clean your mags between every stage, and you can't have that in an everyday carry in a duty level gun. So we needed to kind of push away from that separated. We do make some race ready guns that are phenomenal, but our bread and butter is those robust, extremely reliable, everyday carry and duty style guns that are running lights out, torture tests at 10,000 rounds plus and still humming. And then Staccato is actually a musical note. I'm not a musical guy, but I'm told it's a fast-paced tempo, just like our shooting. It's like ting, ting, ting,
Right.
So I think that's where the name came about.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's a great story. And it's in Texas, right?
Yep, and we build everything down in Georgetown, Texas. Another cool thing that maybe not a lot of people know is we actually source all our materials out of the United States too. So there's no foreign debris or objects in our guns unless you mount something on top of it that's not made in the United States. So.
And that can happen.
Yeah.
Like right there. So, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
The what I find interesting about this brand is that it was the sought after piece. You know, when I started thinking about carrying a gun, you know, I carried 1911 because you know John Moses Browning, right?
God rest his soul.
And yeah, and Jesus carries 1911 as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So once I figured out that I really liked that gun, that was my first sidearm issued to me in the U.S. Army. I am that old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I turned all those 1911s in, and they gave me Berettas, and then everybody had to learn another grip angle and all those things. So it just feels like home to me. And then I was able to have a friend of mine, Joe Barnesfather, rework a 2011 that he had on hand, and that thing was unbelievably good. It was in 40.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the competition round too that you're reaching power factors on. It's hard not to do that because just that little slip in competition, as you know, like you're losing points when you don't necessarily need to. So to have that power factor and run it in 40, if I was going to get back into the competition world, I would actually absolutely run it in 40 just because you need to be at that power factor to, I think, compete at an even measure. I guess measure is not the word, but you're putting yourself behind the power curve if you're running a 9mm.
Right, you have a higher standard, in my opinion. Yeah. At USPSA matches, I kid these guys all the time. I say, "Oh man, carrying a 40, huh? Yeah, so you can miss more, right? And still score it?
You can squeeze it up."
That's not entirely true, but it's fun to watch him wince when you say it. So
yeah, it makes me feel better.
Right, exactly. Man, so the more I got to know this brand from STI and then watch it morph into Staccato, it was really interesting to me to see them go, not go away from what they have as their bread and butter, which is the competition world, but to add armed professionals along with those guys, and that to me was fascinating. I thought that was a stroke of genius, but I wanted to know how they would do it.
Yeah, which was kind of the secret. Like, what are you going to bring to the table that's going to draw that crowd, especially at our price point? Our guns aren't cheap, man. They are not cheap. And you're going to get an everyday citizen to, I can buy this $600 gun, or I'm going to spend $2,000 plus. Well, to me, $2,000 plus is a cheap life insurance if your life depends on that thing performing lights out, you know, and shooting lights out. So,
I thought it was really, really brave. Ballsy, because they're going to cross over into a market that is dominated by striker-fired, polymer-lowered guns, right? And to push themselves back into that market and try to scratch out market share, I was like, how's that going to work out? But man, it's really worked.
And if you look at it, the numbers, I actually know some of the numbers on that. You know, the number one polymer gun in the world is 10% of the market. Staccato's 1/4%.
Oh wow!
We hope to get to 1%, you know, then maybe 2, you know, 2.5. But it's going to take a while, and it's going to take changing. I had this conversation. Do we have it last night about that training away from a hammer-cocked 1911 style? We've basically systematically, since the I don't want to say the invention, but bringing the polymer striker-fire guns to the forefront, we've basically trained away from hammer-cocked single-action guns.
Oh yeah.
And they're proven for over 100 years. They're proven, but we've basically trained away from it to say, oh, those are bad. Wait, the hammer's cocked? Oh my God! Like, what do you mean?
That's unsafe.
This is not unsafe. We've been doing it well before these were ever even invented. But we've just systematically trained away from it. So it's good to get back in there and say, hey, look, this is still a thing. These are still the high watermark and like the industry standard or gold standard for trigger feel, you know, and that input into the gun. And every polymer gun out there, I think striker fire gun seeks to have that type of single action trigger feel. I mean,
they'll never get there.
Yeah, and they'll never get there.
Remember when they had what was the name of that Haley trigger? What was the name of that thing? It was going in Glocks. I can't remember. But it touted a 1911 feel, and then I felt one in a gun. I was like, we got a little ways to go.
1911-esque,
maybe ways to go.
A little bit.
Now but, the only trigger I believe that can come close is some of those SIG triggers. Some of those SIG triggers are pretty crisp. Now they're not nearly as crisp as a well-tuned 2011 or 1911
absolutely.
trigger.
Absolutely. But I think we're starting to gain more ground back into saying, hey, this has been a thing for a long time. We kind of went away from it, but there's nothing unsafe about these guns and how we carry it. It's been proven for decades. It just kind of got pushed to the side a little bit, you know.
Well, I want to ask you another question. So I want to ask you to tell us a little bit about what happens in that building in Georgetown. Like this, when this gun is built, does it like go down an assembly line, or how's that work?
I don't know. If I go down there, I'll probably get fired. But no, so every gun is handmade. We don't technically have one gunsmith building one gun.
Okay.
The demand is so high that if we did that, we would be delivering guns a year down the road. But every gun is handmade. It's not just a machine production assembly line. So as those slides and those frames are milled off the CNC machines, the machinist is going to inspect those for tolerances and make sure there's go, no go. We actually machine to the 4th zero, so the 10,000ths. Industry standard is to the 3rd zero. We're milling to the 4th zero. There's a good chance if we have 2 XCs here, I couldn't take the slide off of one and put it on the other. That's how tight the specs are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they fit that barrel to that frame to that slide, and it's a no-go criteria before it goes over to a gunsmith who will get all these parts, and that gunsmith will completely put this gun together, finish the hand lapping. So you're going to get a gunsmith that's putting the gun together, but he didn't go machine the part, fit it to this barrel, machine this piece, right? We just would never. I mean, if you
and those gunsmiths have been there forever.
Oh
huh?
yeah, they've been a long time.
I mean, they didn't just like go down to Austin to some job fair and pick up some dudes that can put guns
the
together.
guys. There's a couple guys there that they were probably there when they invented these damn guns. They're
Right.
like, yeah, they're the godfathers of the 2011 systems, right? That are overseeing these at the master gunsmith level, and we probably have, I don't know the exact number, probably 25, 30 gunsmiths that work under them or trained by them. Overseen by them. So as those come through, I mean, on the rare occasion you might get one that might slip through, but the master gunsmiths inspect every single gun to make sure that the gunsmiths are putting them together.
Before it goes out the door.
You're getting truly a handmade gun.
So in the QA/QC process, who's the person who says that gun ain't going out the door?
That would be the master gunsmiths.
And so if
there's like two or
if a
three.
lower level, for lack of a better term, gunsmith says, "Hey, this is an issue," he brings it to the master, and the master says, "No go."
Yep, and a lot of that
Or
is checked long before it gets to that process. But if they get to, even if you're like a gunsmith and I was a master gunsmith per se, and you caught that problem, you can go at your level and be like,
I
nope,
see.
this is going back, or this needs to be checked. But if it's like you makes it through year, maybe that one little piece that's just a fraction, the master gunsmith's like, no, that needs to be lapped more, or this needs to be done differently. They'll go back and they'll fix it right there, or the gun never leaves the factory.
I was in a store one time, and they said there was a blim gun there, right? And the guy challenged me, find the blim. Dude, I don't know. I couldn't find the stinking blim on it.
I bought a blim gun at my second beginning of my second year. Right, I'm like, blim. What? And I'm like, circle it on the gun, like with a Sharpie or something, to show me where this is at. And sometimes it's very hard. And it was like on the very back over here by the hammer, like minute, but didn't pass quality control. And
I love it.
Yeah, but you'll get them come out as a blemish gun. They're very hard to find. They'll knock a couple bucks off of it, and it's not, if there's a blemish, it is not a function thing. It's going to be an aesthetic thing. We would never send a gun out that's got a problem with the function.
Now, if it was me, and why that was appealing to me is I could save a few dollars on the gun, and it's going to run like a brand new, and the only thing there is some cosmetic thing that the high standards of Staccato wouldn't let happen. I love it.
I've got a chrome slided XL in my demo kit. That was a blemish. It's got scratches on the slide. That thing runs lights out. It's scratches on the slide. It's not something else. So I run that gun all the time.
That brings me to our next question. Okay, Jim, you're standing in front of your gun safe and the world's ending around you, right? What gun do you pull out and put in your holster?
Probably the P.
Yeah?
Yes, it's just, you can put
Talk
any
about
junk. So the P or our Pro Series, that 4.4 inch double stack, obviously, 4.4 inch steel frame, yeah, the one you got in your holster, is that utilitarian workhorse. So like, I like to equate it, and a bunch of people understand cars, right? When you're talking cars, like, if you call something a Pinto, you know what a Pinto is, right? If you call it a daggum McLaren, or like, okay, so that P is like our Ford Raptor of our handguns, right? So that it doesn't care if there's snow, mud, dirt. on highway, off road, doesn't matter. It'll do everything you want it to do. And that's how I look at that P. Is just that utilitarian workhorse that can do anything. You could compete with it. You could technically concealed carry it. Might be a little big for concealed carry, but you can do it. You can definitely compete with it, but it's not tuned to a competition gun. So for the money and the just robustness and durability and reliability, that gun for the money is really hard to beat. And it is our #1 selling gun because of that. And that's what we have over 400 law enforcement departments lean towards that gun, for duty.
So when Staccato decided to enter the law enforcement communities to get market share there, they decided to go to the special operations side of that house, or did they decide to
started?
Go? Okay.
Initially, I think the concept was let's get in front of SWAT teams, right? Because you got to look at a SWAT team's kit, and it's high dollar stuff, right? And then you got this handgun that was not high dollar stuff.
Right.
So it's like, why are you running all this high dollar stuff, and then you would just kind of settle for this when you probably will be using this.
Their helmet costs more than their pistol.
So I think that was the initial push, was into that spec ops side of the law enforcement. But now we've got like LAPD carrying it. We have tons of SWAT teams, U.S. Marshals, SOG, the Texas Rangers. You got like Miami-Dade. There's over, like I said, 400 departments authorized to carry our handguns now. So it is well beyond just the SWAT teams now.
Do you see cops buying those for themselves, or departments buying them?
It's a good mix.
Okay.
If a department's not buying, but they authorize it, guarantee there's individual officers purchasing the gun.
And you guys have a law enforcement?
Yeah, we have our HERO program in active LE in military.
And that was named after you, right? The HERO program?
Yeah, HERO. not so much.
In my eyes.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. Is that active is getting 15% off, and they're going to get also 3 additional magazines and an optic plate if they choose an optic ready gun. We want them carrying, we want them to have that confidence and carry the best possible piece of kit to protect themselves and others.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So, I mean, I'm standing in front of my gun safe, right? And I open it up, and if I know I can't get back to that safe, and that's the last time I'm going to be here in front of that thing, I'm putting my Staccato in my holster.
Yeah.
Because it carries a ton of BBs, right?
Absolutely.
And then I pull out my Rainier Ruck, and that's my rifle of choice. Because I'll be able to get the ammo everywhere, and I'll be able to do those things.
That's a good point.
Anybody that's serious about their own self-defense, and they're squeamish about the price of their handgun,
I would just ask them to consider test firing it.
Right.
It's like, I can tell you all about the gun. You can look at the price tag, but I would encourage you, and I'll put my gun against any gun out there. It's like, just shoot it next to it.
We saw that all day today. Everybody you talk to, and I could see their body language a little standoffish, and then you coerced them in the Jim Erwin manner to go out and shoot the thing. They come back and they're all smiles, and they're doing the math in their heads. They're like, "What can I move in my life to get me one of these?"
Absolutely.
So, I love it.
And I tell people a lot of times, I'm like, you can buy another gun, or you can invest in a Staccato, and it's an absolute investment. We are there with you for the long haul, man. Like, lifetime warranty on the gun. Like, if there's a problem, we're gonna fix it. I mean, we want your business. We want you carrying the best gun possible to protect yourself and your loved ones, and or protect and serve our community. And if there is an issue, we're going to fix it, right? We're invested in that, and we want to be talking to our end users. We want to be, for lack of a better term, intimate with our dealers, so we have our finger on the pulse of what's going on and what they're looking at, so that if there is an issue, we can fix it right away. We don't get a whole lot back.
No, and and I was going to ask you a question about some customer service stuff. I know that when the company was called STI, those guns were race guns, and they had magazine issues, right?
Yep.
And the clientele fixed those issues on their own, right?
A lot of times, yeah.
And or they found gunsmiths that specialize in tuning those mags.
Right?
Right, and
$170 later.
Good gravy. You're not kidding. I had 8 of them.
Yeah.
So. Costs as much as the gun.
Yeah.
But the Staccato's taken some steps to fix all that, right?
Yes, absolutely. They've listened to the customer base on that and said, hey, what are the issues? If you talk about the mag in particular, and you look at it, it says 9x38, which means a 38 super round will fit in this magazine, but so will a 9mm. But in doing that, there's some tolerances, there's some give, which was causing some feeding issues here and there, right? So we tightened up the specs. We still make a 9x38 magazine, but there is talks of going to a, I don't know if they're going to do it yet, but there's talks of going to a 9mm only one, so that even the tolerances get tighter and you'll have less issues with that. But we've tightened up some of the specs on the throat taper, the feed lips to, I think we're in like Gen 3 or 4 now of mags to address that problem. And what we see is if there is an issue, typically it's a mag issue, it's not the gun. Sure. Which is the cheap fix most days. But we're trying to get it right across the board so you never have an issue, period.
Look, the guns we've brought in here in the last, I don't know how I've been buying direct from you from 2 years now, right?
At least, yeah.
And dang, man, I just tell you that we've had no issues. None.
That's great.
And I did the unthinkable. I gave my magazines to a guy to Cerakote, right? Because they were shiny. I didn't want shiny magazines. Right. And when it comes back to me, I'm like, these might not run.
Yeah, they did. The tolerance is going to change a little bit.
But they ran like a champ.
That's awesome.
And I don't clean my guns. My gunsmith sees me coming with a gun. He's like, I'm going to get nasty messing with this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't clean them until they stop working, right? My carry gun's clean. But the guns I use on the range and train with, I don't clean them, man.
I'm probably one of the highest paid gun cleaners around. Like, I'm constantly cleaning these demo guns because I don't want any issues. And some of them are dirtied up, but I always want to be able to, it's like a personal pride thing. Is when I hand you one of my demo guns, I want that thing to just be butter smooth, clean. And,
yeah, you don't want to get
throughout the day it's going to get dirtied up, but those first few guys that come in, man, they're grabbing a clean oiled gun that just sits there and hums.
What was the most interesting question you've been asked, not maybe today or maybe in the last few weeks?
I think the most interesting one I get, I'd say that's fairly common, which makes it interesting that will it be addressed at some point, is grip size. When are you going to do a women's size grip? I'm like, well, does it have to be women's, or can you just have like baby Deadpool hands? You just get, so we never know. Like, well, maybe at some point that'll be addressed, like actual grip sizes. Will there be some sort of modularity or ability to take it bigger or smaller? Because face it, not everybody's got double stack hands. But
well, yeah, and you're exactly right. I sold a C2 to a lady. Her call sign's D Nice, right? And she had smaller hands than normal. And she's like, what can I do? And I pulled my phone out and I Googled it, and there's a company that specializes in grip reduction on this kind of gun. Now I know that probably Staccato is like, don't do that. Yeah, but it made that gun shootable for her. And now D-Nice is owning them on the range out here.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, there is some aftermarket stuff like that, realizing that your internal specs have to be able to take our proprietary mag. I mean, that's a given. But who knows? We were always trying to improve the foxhole and create stuff to please end users and make something for everybody, man. Like, so it's not just like, you better have some big bear mitts if you want to shoot this gun.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a common mistake. I mean, I think that people's like, man, that gun's got 20 rounds of 9mm in it. There's no way I can hang on to that thing. But when you grab this, especially this new grip feels like 2011 minus. Right. It's really small. And really like the way it's textured, and I'm really envious, and I can't wait till maybe I can get an upgrade to my gun.
Absolutely. One of the things I see too is when you're at this level of handgun too, and you guys do a great job on it because you have a lot of your staff actually carry Staccatos, so they're very interested in educating your customer. Now, it doesn't turn into a training lesson every time you sell a gun, but some people are truly interested to really appreciate this gun is showing them a correct modern grip. You guys have to see it. I know I do as doing demos. Like, you see some just like, that's not a grip. Like, what you're doing is not gripping the gun. So to show them and to truly appreciate this gun and sometimes correct that, well, my hands are too small for this. Well, not really. You're not really gripping the gun correctly. And then when you show them a correct grip, it's like, oh, wait, that's not so bad. Right.
Yeah, you always see the lights pop off in their head.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about.
Like, they're not going to get it.
Well, that TJ Hooker grip, you just can't get away from that. There's nothing more sexy than that.
Yeah, true. I was going to try and bring that back, but I figured I'd get fired.
Yeah, well, William Shiner's still alive, which amazes me.
Right.
He's outlived them all. All the Star Trek
Still
people.
there.
He's
Still
still
there.
kicking it.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Something was right in his universe.
I don't know. That green alien lady, I guess,
Yeah.
gave him the power pill. So I guess what I want to know now is I want to know how you this staccato and bringing the staccato gospel to your region is not all that you do, right?
No.
So you run a training company. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my company is Shooting Performance Institute. Backstory on that is coming out of Army Special Operations, high threat protection, executive protection, basically carrying a gun professionally for a living, and learning from some of the best shooters in the world over the last 30 years, and I continue to learn. I got asked a lot hey, can you teach me how to shoot? I'm like, no, I'm not those guys. I'm not the guys who's taught me, right? And I had it in my head that I wasn't as good or wouldn't be able to deliver the same product as the professionals and guys I ran with back in the day.
Sure.
And then one day, a good friend of mine just like, look, dude, you're doing a lot of people a disservice. You're funny, you know what you're doing, the way you deliver the information is awesome, and everybody teaches the same thing, man. It's just how you deliver it and the words you use. And I was just like, he's like, you really need to think about this. So I decided to start doing it, and it took me a few years to start to get the syllabus down and how to be progressive and flow and adult learning curve and all that, you know. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to give it a shot, and I've been pretty successful with it. So started it up about 7 years ago, part-time, went really full throttle with it for like 5 years, and that's when I ran into STI/Staccato, and they asked me to use their guns in my training. But it evolved from, you know, a lot of friends asking me to coach them, and I've been pretty successful. And one of I think my favorite stories is actually I started coaching this girl, 13 years old. She's in 4-H. They show the goats and the pigs or whatever they're showing, right? And they do barrel racing, and then they do 22 50-yard competitions. So,
Bullseye, right?
Yeah, these bullseye targets. So they're prone, kneeling, and standing, and they're doing X amount of rounds per. And so her mom approaches me and says, hey, I'd really like to, my kid's doing this stuff, and she's kind of new and wants to really get better at it. Would you help us out? I'm like, sure. So a year and a half later, she placed 4th in the state of Nevada and was 34th in the nation. And I was just like, you know, proud coach moment, right?
Right on,
Here's
man.
a kid at 14 years old is going to the nationals in Atlanta from a small, you know, town in northern Nevada, you know, 4th in the nation, or 4th in the state, you know, 34th in the nation out of like 140 kids.
Wow.
So really fun story on that. And then a shout out to Volkortson and Leopold for doing some sponsorship with her. Helped me get her a brand new rifle that's really going to help her increase her skill set. She's got a natural talent. She just needed some better gear, and they stepped up big time.
Fantastic. Well, the same story with when you teach people how to shoot a pistol.
Yeah.
You know, you can show up with a bag of tricks that's not so good, or you can show up with something that's really good, and your natural abilities will shine brighter, right?
Yeah, and I think what separates me from some of the other instructors out there isn't what we're teaching. I think it's how we deliver it. Mm-hmm. And my goal is to give you the knowledge. Like, the best thing I can do for you is give you the knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. Once I give you the knowledge, you can take it with you, and mm-hmm. you understand how to apply it. So if I can give that to you and put it in words that resonate with you and stick in your head, you can take it with you, and you're not like, well, what did he say? You know, use some big encyclopedia word, and you're just like, what is that, right? So I won't say dumbing it down, but like the mechanics of getting the gun in the fight and the fundamentals and how we approach that. And I tell people, like, whether you're a world-class shooter or a, you know, tier 1 special ops guy, all you're doing is the fundamentals in a different situation and under different pressure, right?
What do we say today?
Don't fart in public.
Well,
Wait, no.
I know you're not going to behave with that. I know you're not going to adhere to that rule. We were talking a little bit about fundamentals and how people don't want to take a class in fundamentals because they think it's too rudimentary for them.
Yeah.
But we both looked at each other and it's like, you got to have the fundamentals. All of us do.
Absolutely.
I've taken the same fundamentals class 15 years in a row. 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I guess maybe I'm not smart enough to get better, but
it's just reaffirming or what's the word I'm looking for? You're just like solidifying what you know, and then you're just applying efficiency.
What I find in those, when I go to that course, is I go back into that fundamentals mindset, and I've let myself over the last 11 months put bad habits in place that's causing me problems. And then I have like a reset, and I'm coming back out with my fundamentals intact and ready to, and I incrementally grow, incrementally grow. I don't know about you, but we see that inexperienced shooters grow exponentially.
Yep.
And experienced shooters grow minutely.
But that minute can be exponential. And I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, year and a half ago, I was out with Todd Jarrett. We're shooting and we're trying to go for speed out of the holster.
Who's Todd Jarrett?
He's a 16-time national USPSA
That's
champion.
it?
And then 4-time world champion.
Oh, okay, that guy.
I almost got him. No, I didn't. But he's like, hey man, and he's like, you're over gripping the gun. And he basically tweaked my grip a 1/4 inch, and I dropped like 0.2 of a second off my draw.
Oh man.
That to me, at this level of training, that's exponential. It's only 0.2 of a second.
But that's what I was getting at.
Huge. Right?
It's a little thing that means a lot. Whereas people with a little experience, you got to cram a lot of things in there so they grow faster.
Absolutely. And if you look at it, and this is for everybody out there, like even world-class athletes, professionals of what they do, have coaches, right? Somebody that can step back and dissect what they're doing, put it in words they understand, and tweak. The best players in the world at what they do have guys that can do that for them. That doesn't mean their coach is going out there and winning Super Bowls and PGA Tours, but they know what to look for, put it in words that make sense to them, and improve their talent, their skill set to go out and perform at the highest levels. So even at the highest levels, training is there across the board. People shy away from it in shooting for some reason. I don't know if it's an ego or a macho thing, but they seem to shy away from it in the shooting arena. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like,
the fundamentals makes it work.
More education, more knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sharpening your sword, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I went to Seahawks training camp one time, and I watched, because of the position I played in high school, I watched defensive line and linebackers, and they were teaching the defensive line that first step off the ball, first step off the ball. And I was like, dude, I was doing that in middle school, right? So it rung true to me. I was like, everybody needs the fundamentals, no matter what it is.
Yeah, footwork, in those positions, the training, education on it, that knowledge and that base of this stuff is happening at such a subconscious level because they've done it right so many times. They don't have to think about that first step because they're just doing it, right?
Right.
So, and that's what separates a lot of amateurs from the pros.
So I guess as we wind this thing down, we'll talk a little bit about what is your favorite class to teach?
There's actually two. Right? I really geek on long range precision. I joined the military to be a sniper. I did that. I was successful at it. Distinguished honor graduate in sniper school. Blah blah blah. But I really was fascinated on being able to launch that shot over a great distance, hit what you're aiming at, understanding ballistics and environmentals and all that, and then sharing that with people and seeing them hit is huge. Like they're just like blown away. Like, wait, I just hit a shot at 1,000 yards with a 30-06 or with my AR. I'm like, yeah. You're not going to do it every single time, but like I'm going to show you how to do it. But when you get into pistol craft and you talk about the accessibility of having it on you all the time, you're not running around with an AR. I mean, AR is a great time, but you don't have it slung on you all day, every day, where you will and have that potential with a pistol. And if you can master a pistol, the rest of it really starts to fall into place, whether it's carbine or long range. You grasp the concept. So for me, I really enjoy teaching people pistol craft because I seem to see the most growth in the most light bulb moments, I guess. And
right.
You're just like, dude, I got through. Like, I made it with this guy or this gal, right? And they're just like, holy crap, I get it, right? And then they go out and you see them just start banging shot groups, and you're like, that's awesome.
So that's real-time feedback of your teaching prowess. That's fantastic. What we tell people here all the time is we'll see people that demand more carbine classes. They demand more classes with a long gun, and I'll look at their profile and I'll be like, "Well, man, you've never taken a pistol class. Yeah. I mean, you took concealed carry class, but
that's not a pistol class.
That just teach you what's going to happen when you do blast a fool."
Yeah.
I asked him. I said, "When you leave the house, what's around your neck?" Nothing. What's on your waist? Oh, my Glock or if they're lucky, an STI, Staccato
Yeah.
pistol. So, and I'm like, why haven't you trained with that? Well, you know, I want to get better with my rifle.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you're going to be in a convenience store and something bad happens, or putting gas in your car.
Yeah,
You're not going to be able to get your rifle.
Yeah, fight's over long before you get to it. Cool, we got it in the trunk. Cops are going to be pointing guns at you too when you're pulling guns out of the trunk.
Right.
So to be good with a pistol is extremely important, and it is going to be what is going to be accessible to you. And the better you are with that, or the understanding you have on that core of those fundamentals, that foundation and that mindset, it transcends into carbine long range too. But man, if you can run a pistol good, the rest of it's going to come pretty quickly.
And I think that also gives you a mindset.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you don't. I think the more confident you are, and the more trained you are with the tools you have to protect yourself and your family, the less like food you look like.
Absolutely.
Right? So could you talk a little bit about that, about not looking like food and how you
Yeah, absolutely. And I've spent my adult life basically doing this, right? Just living heads up in each situation I wear. And the old saying goes, like, what's the fight you win every single time? The fight you don't get in, right? And that's because you're switched on, paying attention, and for lack of a better term, nobody wants to mess with you.
Yep.
Because not only are you carrying yourself confidently, but you're also switched on what's going on around you, so you can avoid the situation altogether. That's not de-escalating, avoiding as a protection specialist. You know, that's your game, not being in a fight. You know?
Sure.
So, with that training, that education, that knowledge, and that proper mindset, you can go a long way with not being a victim or that target, right? And then there's also the say, like, you know, you don't have to be faster than the bear, just faster than your buddy.
Right.
Meaning, and if you change that into that mindset and then situational awareness, is you're not the target because you're the one paying attention. The guy next to you ain't paying attention, who they targeted, right? I spent a year in New York City doing protection for somebody out there, and I was blown away with how many people just walk with their head down, earbuds in, or whatever they got, and looking in their phone with a million people around. I'm like, victim, victim, victim. Like, they'll be in their space in a heartbeat. And it was funny, like, I'd be walking and just head up and look at somebody, and they'd happen to look up at me, and it like startled them that I was staring at them. Like, what's up? Yeah, I said, what's going on? They was like, well, this guy's not local.
That happens in the mall all the time. You'll hear me say heads up, eyes up all the time, and the people just walking over top of you, you know? And it nerves people that are with me because they think I should walk around them. But I think it's important to remind people that they're not in their own world. Right? They're and bad guys are waiting for that victim collective to be there.
It's absolutely, right? It's easier to target them.
It's unfortunate. So, wow. So, tell me a story, or if you know any, about one of these pistols that saved someone's life in a real world shooting.
I actually don't have any off the top of my head. I was trying to think of it, but I also have a horrible memory. So, see how that light went out on me like that? They're like, don't ask him that question. But 45 minutes is up, son. No, I haven't been paying attention to where a Staccato was used in such a case. I know they're out there. I know, like, we've had officers that have had to use a Staccato in personal defense and lived, and we take care of them on that side of things too. But I don't have any personal knowledge of any off the top of my head, so I apologize for that.
No, don't worry.
So unprepared.
No, and well, maybe it's just people don't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So I asked that question to everybody sitting in the chair that deals with the firearms world, and I'm surprised at the answer they get. So,
no doubt, no doubt.
It's man, as long as I know, and this is going to sound borderline metrosexual, but I always want to spend more time with you if I can. The more time, the better around you, right?
Always the same. It's the same. I think like-minded people draw to each other, and they like to share stories, and they like to spend time together because it's fun and it's enjoyable instead of this mother. Right. He's coming back in.
And what's really cool to me was when I got into the defense industry, I was a blind dog soldier. I was nothing special. I was some dude that had U.S. Army and my name tag. That was it, right? And I go into this defense industry, and I'm like, man, these people don't have any reason to talk to me at all, right? Because all these scary badges are on all these dudes' records, and some of them wear them on the back of their trucks and stuff, which I think is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
me too.
And I'm like, wow, dude. they really will socialize with me, and they really will include me in the reindeer games. The first friend I made in this industry was a guy named Mark Popelka from your unit.
Those good
Pope,
people,
man. The Pope, he took me under his wing. He said, "This is what we need to do. This is how we act in this industry. These are the people you need to meet." And I'll never forget that.
And Pope's one of those guys that didn't let the job define him. And I tell people that, man, you said I just had this on me. I had the same exact uniform. I might have done some different stuff, but I wore the same damn uniform. So I just had a different job, right? So you rose your hand, put up the same risk as I did at that moment in time. I just chose to do some other stuff to challenge myself, but it didn't change me as a human being. I just had a different job, man. And so Pope was like the epitome of that too. And I madly respect that dude. There are a lot of people out there that let that job, that title define them as a human. And I hate to say it, they turn them into assholes, right? Like,
Well, this happened.
That's sad.
This is an anecdote that happened to me right before I left the defense industry and went into the firearms world. I was at a SF show in Tampa, and we do it different there, right? We had a yacht. Right?
Yeah, that's what I remember. That was a badass.
And we would have, the show would not ever end on that yacht. The show was always on. And I remember standing there, and a friend of mine brought this guy up and introduced me to him. And he starts asking all those nether region measurement questions, right? And I said, "Look, man, I'm nobody special. I'm just some guy, right? But I know how to sell stuff. I know how to listen to the customer. I know how to develop a product based on that information." And as I'm turning to walk away, he tells his buddy, and I guess he's hard of hearing, so he talks loud, but he said, "That guy never did anything. Why should I even listen to him?" And then the guy looks at him and says, "That dude will throw you in the water." So I turned around, looked at him, and gave him a thumbs up.
Your patch.
I said, "You guys get to leave." So,
and it's sad that statement was even said, right? Like
why should I listen to him?
I know, and if that had happened 6 years prior to that, it probably would bother me. But I had a lot of water under the bridge by then, right? The stuff that we did in the industry that I was in saved a ton of people's lives and made the mission easier to take bad guys off the earth. And that's
you don't
really
think that should matter? I would say yes.
Yeah.
So you get that ego and that guy stuck on whatever job he did.
Come to find out, never deployed.
Go figure.
Yeah,
right?
the first Ranger bad guy. So, okay, so here we are at the end of this thing. What else do you want to tell us?
Say no to drugs.
Yeah.
No. So I would encourage you, male, female, if you carry a gun or you're in this industry, personal reasons, professional reasons, I encourage you to take training. Validate your instructors. Make sure you got the right people. I can't tell you how many videos that I've seen, you've seen, where you got guys that claim to be all this and that, and you watch one video and you're like, what are they doing? It's filled with theory and people practicing some really unsafe stuff that just have no place in the industry. You'll never get rid of it. Validate your instructors, but seek instruction. Don't be afraid to try to learn more. Be open to it. You don't have the ego of like you know what you need to know. Unless you're Jerry Mincic, Todd Jerry, these pros that are winning stuff at the highest levels for 20 plus years, you can probably get some more training and continue to grow as a shooter and a personal protection person. So my company is Shooting Performance Institute. You can find it at shootingperformanceinstitute.com. Social media is Jim the Kraken 1, Kraken number 1. I try not to put a bunch of stuff on there, but I guess you have to if you want to be. It's like you kind of have to, right, to keep putting stuff out there. Anything I'm putting on there is hopefully helping better people in either understanding what they're getting into, some sort of training, or the gear I'm using and why, just to help bring knowledge to the field, but continue to seek training. You and I are doing it 30 plus years later, and there's no reason not to, and it's going to continue to be hard to kill, man.
That's exactly right. Look like food and be hard to kill.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come see us, man.
Always good to
really
see you.
appreciate that. Anytime.
Absolutely.
All right, this is Over the Barrel with G-Dub, Jim Erwin. Look for it on the channel. Make sure you watch it all the way through. So we said some cool stuff at the end. All right, thanks.